Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Jacob Payton here, and today we'll be talking about 8 books that I recently bought off of Etsy. I think the store was called Dead Zone Collectibles. They had a lot of really cool stuff. If you like classic horror, science fiction, I think they also sold like beta tapes and VHS and just like, it was all sorts of stuff. It was really cool. I ordered a bunch of stuff because it was good deals. But what brought me to it at all was the fact that I was able to find Spooksville number 21, Return of the Dead. I will show you that cover here. I have been trying to track down a lot of the Spooksville books. I have all of the reprinted editions up until I think they cut off at like 11 or 12. And then after that, it becomes very tricky, at least in my experience, to find some of these later titles in the Spooksville series. There are, I do believe, 21 books total, but I could be completely wrong about that, and there might be more. If there are more, please let me know in the comments. But yeah, anyway. Return of the Dead. Dead but not sleeping. Spooksville skeletons are waking up. They're rising up from the graveyard, breaking free from the earth. Why are they coming back to life? And will they get what they want from Adam and the gang? Bum bum bum. So yeah, this is kind of cool. I am not going to start reading this anytime soon. I want to read all of the books leading up to that, and then it is my plan to do a video talking about the entire Spooksville series, but that might take a while as I try to track down all of these books. Like I said, a lot of these Christopher Pike books in the Spooksville series, they are difficult to track down. There aren't really digitized versions that you can even find or purchase, so you know, it is what it is. As things have been opening up though, I'm hoping to be able to track down some of them in the wild, but we shall see. Next up, I have The Breeder by Ed Kelleher and Harriet Vidal, authors of Madonna, and it says, "Where life is a deception, death is the eye of the beholder." The Breeder. And yeah, there is obviously a lot going on in this cover, but it is a really cool cover. And it says, "Welcome to Mount Garde. Welcome to hell. It was a quiet resort slumbering in the summer sun, the perfect place for Janet Young to relax and get to know her new husband and rebellious teenage stepdaughter. But Mount Garde was not what it seemed. Something was wrong. ... Very wrong. Janet could feel it, for despite the holiday atmosphere, there was an undercurrent of evil, a stink of corruption that tainted the salt air. Even the people she met in town were peculiar, cold, distant and unearthly. Haunted by her wildest fears, wondering if she were losing her mind, Janet Young suddenly found herself surrounded by blank-faced neighbors, opening their arms to her, welcoming her... to hell." I love vacation horror books, especially ones that take place in small towns, because I love folk horror. So this was something that I knew, not even just based on the cover, that I wanted to buy. It was also a leisure horror, which for the most part, I've really enjoyed reading them. I did buy this next book completely for the cover because look at it, it was super awesome, and I think I paid like $1 for it plus shipping. This is Colin Capps, The Ion War. The colony worlds were caught up in a desperate struggle to save themselves from an Earth gone mad. When Major Dam Stormdragon was chosen to serve as part of Castilia's military tithe to the Mother World, he had no choice but to go. Much as he loathed Terra and everything she stood for, he knew that given the combination of arrogance and paranoia that Terrans displayed towards all colonials, he was at best in for a miserable year, and that at worst, he would find himself taking part in a military action against his fellow colonials. He also knew that the increasing ferocity with which the Terrans responded to the slightest balking of the Imperial will meant that one day soon the hub worlds would have to fight, or that Terra's madness would destroy them all. What Stormdragon could not know was that the Mother World was already set on obliterating her children, and that he himself would be Terra's secret weapon and the most dreadful conflict in the history of man, the Ion War. Yeah, I love these classic science fiction books. They tend to be a little wild. They're just all over the place, especially like some of the Ace science fiction. Yeah, it's they're not, you can't think of them like Star Trek or like Star Wars where they're like plot heavy. There just seems to be a lot of action and a lot of things that don't necessarily need to make sense because they are over the top and super pulpy, and that is something I love. Next up is Fred Saberhagen's A Question of Time, the new Dracula novel from the co-author of the official movie tie-in of Bram Stoker's Dracula. I love this cover. I've also been reading some of Fred Saberhagen's Dracula books, as he does have a lot of Dracula tie-in novels that feature like Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that, which is a lot of fun for me, being both a vampire fan and a Sherlock Holmes fan. I did not know that he wrote the official movie tie-in edition to Dracula, so that is pretty neat and also makes a lot of sense. And it says, in 1935, the Conservation Corps' worker Jake Resner meets a beautiful and mysterious young girl in the Grand Canyon. She leads him deep into the rocks to a bizarre sculptor named Edgar Tyrell. Soon, Jake finds himself lost in time, unable to return. Almost 60 years later, private detective Joe Kyogi has been hired to locate a missing girl, the great niece of Edgar Tyrell. But Tyrell is Nosferatu, and he would sculpt in the sands of reality itself. So Kyogi must call on Mr. Strangeways, an old friend of the family and Lord of the Vampires, to battle an undead menace from beyond time. I don't know, it sounds a little wild plot-wise, but I'm always game to read a vampire novel, especially a pulp vampire novel, as they're usually a lot of fun. Next up, I have Andrew J. Offutt and Richard K. Lyons' Demon in the Mirror. And this looks like it's going to be a sword and sorcery adventure, which I do like the sword and sorcery pulp genre. And it says on the back, yeah, Demon in the Mirror, sword, sorcery, spectacular adventures. As Tiana of Remy, illegitimate daughter of a murdered duke and foster child of Karanga. I'm going to go with Karanga as my final answer. That might be completely wrong. The greatest of the pirate captains embarks on a bizarre quest when a captured Nerokan merchant and a severed hand take her to treacherous alien lands. Yeah, this definitely seems like something to be right up my alley. I do love the, like I said, the pulp sword sorcery adventures, and I'm excited to check this out. Also, it cost me like $1. Next up is Emerald Eyes by Daniel Keyes Morgan, the author of Armageddon Blues. Science gave a race of telepaths life, but only war could give them freedom. And this shows a very dystopian future in which an armed, most likely soldier or police officer is holding a baby. This just seemed cool. I don't know. I like a lot of the Armageddon books, so I thought this would be fun. And it kind of like, the cover kind of reminded me of Damnation Alley a little bit. And it says Carl Castanevras, I probably just completely butchered that last name and I'm sorry, was an accident. The government wanted a superior race of soldiers. Their genetic engineers created a telepath instead. The United Nations Peace Force was quick, however, to recognize the advantages of a telepathic army, and so Project Superman was born. Within a few years, 250 telepaths were reared and nurtured as only the most useful slaves can be. Now these rare, talented children have come of age, and no one is prepared for the consequences, for they demand the same freedom all men and women have come to expect, and they have a unique power to fight for it. So yeah, that sounds pretty neat to me. I do like I said, like the post-apocalyptic far future type stuff, and I'm also always down for a good kind of like genetic engineering story that ends with the genetically engineered fighting back and fighting for their freedom. Such things like Maximum Ride were some of my favorite books growing up, and hopefully that'll give me kind of the same vibe in this, but we shall see. Next up is another book by Colin Capp. This one is Patterns of Chaos, and I also bought this because of the super cool cover and the fact that I'm pretty sure this is another pulp adventure. He awoke without a trace of memory, but as the echoes of the telepathic trigger phrase faded soundlessly from his mind, things slowly fell into place. He was on Oneris, the 27th rim planet to fall prey to the Destroyers. He was an operative in the special assignment groups of the Stellar Commando. He was the crucial role in saving the remaining rimworlds from the rapacious inroads of the destroyer forces. He was point man, victim, and helpless puppet, all rolled into one, under the absolute dominance of a sadistic goddess whose voice spoke within his mind, who saw with his eyes, and who could punish him utterly. He hated and adored her. What he would not learn until much later was that he was the focal point in a plot older than humanity, a plot before whose menace the threat posed by the destroyer forces paled to an insignificance. Yeah, this just seems like it's going to be a fun pulp adventure against very stereotypical sounding sci-fi villains such as the Destroyers with some magic thrown in, so that'll be fun to read. This is one of the books I was most excited about. This is a pinnacle horror book by L.A. Freed, and this is Bloodthirst. I love that typography, and I love the open-caped vampire standing against the night. And it says, the night has terrors all its own. You can't tell yet from watching this channel and some of the hauls that I have done, I love vampire books. The cheesier, the pulpier, the better. I mean, some of my favorite movies are, Lost Boys, Blade, that type of stuff. I don't need the moody and the broody. I just need, 30 Days of Night, Salem's Lot, that kind of stuff. Angela Trenton was as innocent as she was beautiful, and as vulnerable as she was unwary. When she first felt the chilling touch of a bloodless hand gripping her in the darkness, muffling her screams, she feared she was about to die. But as her attacker pressed cold lips to her neck and she felt his teeth piercing her skin, she knew what was happening was much, much worse. ... Then came the ecstasy in her own first taste of blood, and she was wedded forever to the night. With each sunset, she grew stronger, more confident, and more determined to find and destroy the one who had condemned her to this everlasting half-life. And as she hunted, she hungered, tormented by the desperate desire to kill and feed, enslaved for all eternity by her bloodthirst. Yeah, see, it's right there. And it's also right there, which is pretty neat. I'm excited to read this. I have not read any of the books by L.A. Freed. I do believe they wrote other books, and I also think this may be a pseudonym for somebody else, but do not quote me on that. If it is, when I review this book, I will talk all about it. That I do promise. Like I said, I got all these books off of Etsy, which for me is turning into a really interesting place to purchase harder to find used books. It seems like the marketplace there is really growing, just like it is on another app I use called Macari. If you have not seen that around, I've bought a couple books and book slots off of that, and will most likely buy more in the future, just like I plan to with Etsy. But anyway, I hope I kept that short and sweet and showed you guys, some of these cool finds I found. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.